just want to say congratulations. It has to feel good, but it also has to feel a little bit scary too. You're stepping into this next season, and we have these markers of adulting. And so regardless of where you are at in the age spectrum, commencement a lot of times equals new season. So I just want to say congratulations. And then I also want to applaud you for taking advantage of the opportunity that Alumni Relations is bringing to you through this Career Readiness series. I've had the opportunity and honor to present a few times, and we actually pivoted and put Imposter Syndrome a little at the beginning, so you can be equipped as you move through this search, whether a recent alumni or seasoned alumni. You can notice and harness those gremlins as they come through. So excited to be here. As mentioned, please, let's be interactive. If you have a question in the moment, ask the question. Kyle and I have chatted. He's going to say, hey, Amy, we have a question, since I won't be able to necessarily see the chat or hand raising. So please ask away. I'm going to share screen now, and hopefully this works. I had a little bit of issue as we were walking through. So just give me a moment to switch the settings here, because of course they were ready and now you're seeing the wrong screen. So one moment. Best laid plans, friends, and that is what happens. All right, thumbs up. I see you, Susan, on screen. Okay, thank you for that. So welcome to Taming Imposter Syndrome. Yes, we do hope to turn it into Empower Syndrome. So maybe it was a slip of the tongue, but not really when I'm looking at it as we move forward. So little heads up on what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to walk through kind of the ground rules. Anytime you're hanging out with me and E3 coaching, little bit of background about myself, not because I necessarily like talking about myself, but I want to share some of the experiences that have contributed to imposter gremlins in my world, and perhaps it'll shine a light on maybe where some of yours manifest from. We're going to talk about what is it, what's the research behind it. We're going to talk about the why, and then how it's costing you in your career search. Then the meat of all of this, how can we tame it? What tools? And then lastly, hopefully, you're going to join me in creating a contract with yourself to follow through as and have takeaways and actionable items as you move forward. So kind of ground rules for E3 Coaching Studio. As I mentioned, anytime we're hanging out is you've been really darn busy in all that you do. And oftentimes we feel like if we're fidgeting, we're not respecting the individual who's presenting. I am actually at a 180 on that. I welcome you to have fidgets, to be crocheting, knitting, if you're a doodler, because I am a believer that oftentimes in order to stay fluid with our attention span, we have to keep our hands busy. So do what you need to do. Also want to encourage you that this is a safe space for folks. I want to invite you to bring your whole self. Know that your authentic and whole being will be respected. For guests, hopefully everybody is on the same page. But if we have someone who likes to poke at people and do different things, absolutely zero judgment if you decide now is the time to exit. Also, want to invite you to contribute. And with the recognition that sometimes contribution can be extremely vulnerable, but that your lived experiences, your lens will be valued here in whatever way, whether you want to verbally speak, you want to throw things in a chat, you want to throw off to Kyle or myself a private message, whatever works for you. So that's kind of our ground rules for the evening. When you see me keep reaching over here, I moved my mouse. So now that's what I'm doing there. So a little bit about me. Our identities are not individualistic. They are made up of a whole host of experiences, nature and nurture. So a little bit about myself. I'm a career life strategist. I also am all about community, and that is where my career has been spent. I happen to be a member of the 2S LGBTQ plus community. I also have identities within my family structure that I carry. So often people will say, do you have children? And the answer is yes, 14 of them, but I did not give birth to any of them. They are all nieces, and you heard that correctly. My siblings produced 14 girls. And when the first one was born, I was all about, oh, I want to have a boy. I want a boy in our family. I want a nephew. And then consecutively, 13 more girls came, and I cherish and adore each and every one of them. Other things that I identify with is a recovering people pleaser as well as perfectionist. When I say recovering, that truly is a day by day, sometimes moment by moment, catch myself. Personally, I am a staunch advocate and ally of social justice issues in a lot of realms, but there's just a few of them listed here. And a little bit of background. All of those things can contribute to some of the imposter gremlins that I carry within me. But these last three lines are a lot of lived experiences that contribute to gremlins. As somebody, yes, maybe in communication, you saw these degrees and certifications that I hold. But that does not negate the fact that I was when it says high school struggler, what that means is I actually dropped out of high school and I went to night school for a significant period of time. I also had the sweetest deal in the world from my mom. You get a C or better, and I will pay for all of your college. Guess who screwed that up within 6 weeks of enrollment? This one. So guess who graduated? Eventually, it took me 10 years to get my associate's degree. And now I have a graduate degree and many certifications, but wasn't intelligent enough necessarily, but I would say not ready to take my mom up on that offer. So guess who graduated with all the student debt? Me. But in that, I discovered a love for learning, but it had to be timely in my life space. How was I going to apply it? And just going to school to go to school did not fit in with my psyche. I'm very much a learner that it is about, okay, what can I do with this? As well as if I can show up on test day and get an A on something, why do I need to show up for the rest of it? And so it took me a while to learn why interaction with my peer classmates as well as with professors and what have you. But then other spaces that contribute to gremlins is I grew up experiencing various sexual, physical, and emotional abuses. I grew up as a first generation college student as well. And then had some other things, including alcoholism, incarceration, and other dynamics that happened in my family. So I may refer to some of these as we go along today to show how they have contributed to my own imposter gremlins as we move forward. So what is imposter syndrome? What I want to point out is you see up in the top right-hand corner, I have flipped the script on you, and it's no longer imposter syndrome, but imposter phenomena. Essentially, imposter syndrome, i.e. phenomena, is those feelings that we experience that even though we have this entire litany of success, we've perhaps been promoted, or we're always being tapped to take leads on projects or sit on work committees. In our brain, it feels like the fraud police is standing out there with the flashlight right outside the door to be like, bam, got you. We knew you didn't know what you were doing. As opposed to, no, I have this litany of success. I have been tapped. It is always that fear that you're going to be sitting in a room and you're going to do a misstep and somebody's going to go, yeah, knew it. Everything about you is a complete fallacy. So in a very quick definition, that is what imposter phenomena is. The reason I'm pivoting my language from imposter syndrome is that was my hook to get you to attend this event. It's become more common language. Imposter syndrome is the marketing side of it. However, the person who discovered imposter phenomena, Dr. Pauline Rose Clance, who discovered this and began research in 1978, encourages us to think of it not as syndrome, because that word in and of itself seems like it's something we can't cure. And through her research, the discover was, no, if we put tools and resources, thoughts and effort towards taming it, we can quiet those gremlins' voices. And so that's why from here on out this evening, you'll hear me refer to it as imposter phenomena, so that I can encourage you to also utilize that language so we can change the narrative, but then also so that you can internalize that phenomena is a short-term experience as opposed to a syndrome that we are living with. Not to take away, imposter phenomena might show up once a day, once a month, but on some days, I almost swore I'm gonna do my best today not to, is just to quiet that beast down and say, no, be quiet. So where this came from was Dr. Rose Clance was an advisor for many doctoral students, and a lot of them were females. And what she noticed is a lot of her students coming in to either drop out of their program or asked to play down what their original thesis was going to be. And as she would meet with these individuals, what she discovered was they had competency in these areas. However, internally, they didn't feel like they did. These were individuals who had a wealth of success. They had been selected to participate in a highly competitive, highly sought after program based on the contributions that they had in both workplaces as well as lived experiences. And as she talked them through it, realizing the commonalities were, it was inner self-talk. It was gremlins that was appearing to make these individuals feel this way. So there's the birth. You have been or will be provided with materials, as you see some hyperlinks in here, is that the research, one of the things I love about Dr. Rose Clance is since that time, she has tracked every validated piece on imposter phenomena and has it open source. So you can just go right out to her website and there's a litany of information out there. She also created what is the Clance Imposter Phenomena Scale, which is SIPS. It is super easy. I'm hoping my screen is going to switch here with me. And it did not. It went over to another screen. So we will skip that, but it is just about 30 quick questions, but then it gives you a scale at the end. Like, where do you fall on the SIPS scale? And then gives you some tools of how to overcome, of which we will talk about additional ways that I have developed through my work on how to overcome that. Excuse me. So actually, before we move on, does anybody have any questions around where it came from, what it feels like, and we're going to move into some of the whys moving forward? Yep, the School of Hard Knocks. That is awesome. I love it. It's so true. Whether we succeed and we view our failure as just something that's going to keep us down, or are we going to fail forward and learn from that? All right, moving forward. So some of the whys. I do want to share that imposter phenomena is not gender agnostic, meaning it does not apply only to females. However, I will say for certain populations, it is more prevalent. Cis white males experience imposter phenomena. However, males who identify as individuals of color or from first generation moving into a new field of experience beyond what their family has done, as well as I mentioned, females experience it more frequently, as well as around a greater extent of topics. And the reason for that is research has shown that cis individuals tend to encounter more role models in their workspace where they're able to learn lessons from on how to tame imposter phenomena and be able to let those go throughout their lifetimes, as opposed to individuals in other spaces through the aging process. Also, to that point, many individuals are automatically based on outward appearance. They have had lived experience that makes them feel less than, whether it is identities based on racial or ethnic background, sexual identity, relationship status. They have been pushed on so hard that makes them feel less than. And so those pieces can contribute to imposter phenomena at a greater level. And then systemic biases. Social capital, meaning, I mentioned earlier, as a first generation graduate, not only that, but I came from a blue collar background. And what I mean by that is I don't like the term professional background, because no matter where we're coming from, we are contributing in a professional way. And so when I say blue collar, it's my family. I grew up in Southeast Michigan until we immediate family moved to West Michigan. And General Motors, various manufacturing, tool and die, automotive, repair backgrounds. And so as an individual who is not skilled and gifted in those crafts, I would have failed miserably in any of those spaces. I did not have the social capital to make connections or the ability to ask questions. And when I say cultural capital, what I mean by is I knew how to act in my family. I mean, we had dinner together every night as a family, but to move into, let's say, a large gala event being held by a preeminent organization within a certain community, I didn't know anything about etiquette and how you do this, how you do that, or the appropriate way to shake hands, or which side I was supposed to have my name tag on. I didn't know any of those things. I also, as you will find, am a talker. And so if I want to ask you a question in the middle of something, I didn't see it as rude. I just want a clarification from my seating buddy about what you were speaking about, because you lost me and I want to stay up. As well as time spent in certain workspaces. So those are some of the whys of imposter phenomena and why they appear so strongly. So just a couple of fun little cartoons. The first one playing off that gender side of things, but it's kind of, and I would love show of hands, in the chat. Have you experienced this before? As if you are an individual that identifies as a female. Yeah, thanks, Julia. But to be fully convinced, I'm going to need to hear John restate this for me. I don't know about you all, but I have experienced this time and time again, and it has only been through the grace of aging, where I am able to then take hold of my agency and push back a little bit to say, oh, well, actually, let me re-clarify in a way that might connect with what you're looking for, or say it another way. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, I want this to be gender agnostic of, hey, how you doing? I'm doing fine. No, this is a pure representation of what imposter phenomena feels like. No, really, in your brain, you are saying, I am fine. But it's like, nope, I'm a fluke. I'm afraid. Everybody's going to hate what I have to say today. I hope nobody calls on me because the information I'm bringing in is not going to be contributive to the conversation. Just shut up, Amy. Don't say anything further. So that's kind of what some different ways that imposter phenomena feels like as you walk through things. And I do see in the chat that a few people are experiencing or have felt that way. And where did I get that graphic depiction of your brain? That's how I felt, Trina, when I came across it. So it is out there. And I'm sorry that you've had that, but by the time we are done this afternoon, hopefully you have some ways to feel great and tame those gremlins. And then here is just a little piece about imposter phenomena. Who gets it? We all feel alone. We each have our individual fraud person behind the doorway, standing right behind us, wherever it is. But here I'm free to tell you, you are not alone, because absolutely every single human being on earth feels like an imposter sometimes. Some of us may experience it at a greater degree on a more frequent basis, but every one of us feels it. And it's at this time that I want to add a clarification. Oftentimes, imposter phenomena, we only think about it in the space of our work worlds, meaning we only think it happens in the space of our professional spheres. And that's not the case at all. Imposter phenomena can appear in all of the spaces that you are divided into. Meaning, if you are a parent or guardian in some way, if you are a coach or instructor, whether it be for artistic endeavors, sports, church, synagogue, mosque, what have you, it can show up in your volunteer work. All of those spaces that we fill out to enrich our lives, imposter phenomena can appear in all of those different spaces. But please, if you take anything from this slide, every single person on this earth feels it at some point in their lives on an ongoing basis. So as seasoned or brand new graduates, why did Alumni Relations, why did Grand Valley want to invest in this? Likely you are either contemplating maybe a career search, maybe it's a career pivot, maybe you are looking to transition into something wholly new. In imposter phenomena can show up in your career search in a very big and real way. And here are some of the ways is that we automatically, when we're experiencing imposter phenomena in a career search, eliminating ourselves from the pool. What imposter phenomena does is you're on Handshake, you are on Indeed, you're on LinkedIn. You are pulling up descriptions, and what you're doing is automatically just looking for, oh, nope, I can't do that, can't do that, can't do that. Oh, nope, it's not a good fit for me. Couple of little secrets here for you. One is secret from the employer side of things. when job career postings are placed out there, they're actually only looking for a 50 to 60% match of what is listed on that description. And so when we're excluding ourselves by 1, 2, maybe 3 bullet points or more, depending on how strong your imposter phenomena is, that gremlin is talking right now, we're eliminating ourselves unnecessarily. Another fun fact that I want to share is that individuals from marginalized or underrepresented communities, including individuals who identify as female, they will not apply for a position unless they view themselves as a 90% match. So we're 30 to 40% off. Remember, they're only looking for 50 to 60%. And our base minimum threshold is 90% before we exclude ourselves. So one of the things I want to encourage you is, when you are looking at descriptions, instead of looking for the items that exclude you from applying, look for and highlight the pieces that include you, that say, heck yeah, you are going to be a great talent and you can transfer your knowledge into that. So stop looking for what excludes you. Imposter gremlins are also expensive because one more class, one more certification, I'll be ready when. And so we're continuously, monetarily, and with time commitments, pouring ourselves in to that next thing to get us prepared. But I'm here to tell you, we're never going to be fully prepared to take that next step until we give ourselves permission. And marketers know that that is a huge piece. And so they, target to our imposter gremlins to continually get us to sign up for that next class. And this is not to say I love Grand Valley, I love everything they do, and the PDs and advanced degrees and different things. But at some point, we have to take a step. Otherwise, our investment in learning outpaces the income and excess income that we have available. It's also very expensive because we play small. We play small. I want to apologize, especially on behalf of American society. We have been taught to be humble, to not be egotistical. First off, I'm sorry that we never, and I agree with some of those things, but we should have always had an asterisk that does not include on your professional toolkit. Your value and contributions cannot be pulled from thin air by hiring managers, by recruiters, by sourcers. You have to provide that information. And so I want to give you the freedom and the permission. Play big on your toolkits. No one's going to know unless you share. The key to an awesome toolkit is creating a living picture within those documents of how you can become a contributor, so that then a picture in my mind to say, oh, I cannot wait to have a conversation with Sheena because I can already see her sitting next to me as my colleague. So please think about your contributions and your accomplishments in a very picturesque way, increase, decrease statistics. And there's a lot more information that you possess that you don't realize. But then I know the career services team would help you, love to help you unpack, unflesh. So you are showing up as your true contributor self in your toolkit.
Amy?
Yes.
Lauren had a question. I think that's relating to what you just talked about, but I think this is referring to how do you showcase your accomplishments if you don't feel like you've accomplished anything in your career? Can you maybe give some concrete examples of other things to showcase?
Yes, thank you so much for that, Susan. And thank you for your openness with that question, Lauren. What I will share is your gremlin, and we will get back to the term why I keep saying gremlin, because I find imposter phenomenon monstrous. You have had accomplishments in your career. Unfortunately, with imposter gremlins, we see it as that kind of task list that's on our responsibility list, and nobody taught us ways to quantify or qualify our accomplishments. So trying to think of an example here. So working with individuals who are in college or recent graduates, and maybe they've held down what is considered those college roles, meaning that they have worked in a service-oriented business, in customer service, retail, restaurant, those types of industries. And they're like, well, I just waited on tables, or I just did this. All of those items can be turned into accomplishment-based, meaning I'm just going to take like a server type role, being mindful of you were often recognized by your leadership team for the number of high ratings you received on Google or Yelp. Taking that information and quantifying it to showcase your ability to be customer oriented and multifaceted in a very fast-paced environment would be one example. We also say you're in a customer service role, the number of, and it's on an intake inbound role, you have certain parameters that you have to meet to show that you are efficient or minimally meeting standards. Well, if you are consistently over meeting those, exceeding those expectations, those can be turned into statistical numbers. And I'm not saying that you have to have exact proof on these. You're looking at an average over time because you get to expound on these during an interview. And do want to share that members of your Grand Valley Career Services team, they are incredible assets in helping you to quantify and qualify those accomplishments when you're struggling to do so. And not only do they have in-person hours, but they also have online virtual meet times where you can connect with somebody to walk through that as well. If you don't mind, Lauren, if you could drop in to let me know if that answered your question, because if not, we can unpack it more as we have time. Oh, and thank you for throwing in the career resources.
Hi, yes, that answered my question. I was struggling to find the unmute button.
Nope. I appreciate that, Lauren, and we can unpack more if you'd like to. So
Thank
as we
you.
go along. Okay, so imposter phenomena is also extremely draining. It is hard, back to that character, I can't even say it, the photo, the picture, where we're carrying all of this stuff on our back. It's draining, it's heavy to carry our gremlins around. And so one of those things is being superhuman. And what I mean by that is we're overstretching. We are saying yes to everything. For me, oftentimes I have an inability to say no. Yes is my automatic answer without thinking, how many plates am I already juggling? You know, what do I have going on? The automatic answer is yes, when really taking the time to sit, to pause, to breathe, to go, am I going to be able to juggle all of these plates and do it well before I take on something else? Being a superhuman. It's also, imposter gremlins can make us feel like I have to be in there before everyone else. I'm going to show my dedication by working late, by putting in more time than my colleagues, because that's going to show, you know, the leadership or my coworker that I'm worthy of this job. You are worthy of your role because you were selected for your role. You show up for your role and you produce quality work while you're there. You don't have to extend yourselves to the essentially edge of breaking physically or mentally, because it will manifest itself in some kind of physical or emotional, mental capacity when you are trying to be superhuman. Also, when you have this lens, you might be mistaken as someone who is offish because you're not interested in the coffee chatter. You appear short with individuals. And I personally, I can get zoned in on my work. And it's not that I don't want to connect and build relationship with my colleagues. I do very much so. But because I have this perfectionist tendency, I get honed in on my work, beelined in, you're coming by, and it's like, hey, what's up? How you doing, Lauren? Okay, all right, gotta get back to work. When really pausing, really connecting can allow myself to reset, but then also says to my peers, I value and I care about you. One of the biggest things when it comes to imposter gremlins is luck and timing. And don't get me wrong, I am a firm believer in serendipity. If we ever hang out together, which I hope we all do someday soon, I'm a huge believer in serendipity. But as someone who carries a lot of imposter gremlins around with me, for the longest time was, oh, I just had the luck to happen to meet that person. That opportunity only came my way because no one else was around when the opportunity arose. So I just got it by happenstance. And I want to free you from this fallacy. Luck and timing, serendipity is a very real thing. However, you had to seize on the opportunity. You had to vocalize, say, yes, I am going to do this. to put that luck and timing into action without you stepping into the work and undertaking it, the work would not have progressed forward. And so back to like the accomplishments, it is also not what's just on your job description, but what other spaces have you been invited into that are those other duties as asked or necessary, depending on how it's written. Think about those other spaces where you're being asked to contribute, because those are accomplishment-based elevators as well. When you are experiencing imposter phenomena, oftentimes you can be crushed by the fear of failure, meaning, I'm not even going to try it because I might fail. And so it's draining and expensive because we're not even willing to dip our toe in the water. Also, the fear of disappointing others is a key spot of, I committed to this pathway. And I committed to this because my family expected me to continue on this path. This is what I went to college for. This is what I agreed to do. So there is no veering off. Even when you're like, I'm a wreck and I hate what I'm doing and it's zapping me of all energy and joy. So that fear, those gremlins rob us of our own sparking of energy and joy and stop us from getting what we really want out of career and life. So now we're going to move into taming imposter phenomena. But before we go there, I'm just going to stop this share real quick and open it to see if there's any curiosities about what it is or how it feels before we start talking about the taming side of things. So I'm just going to give us about a minute here to allow opportunity to raise hands, type something in chat, whatever feels best for your soul. Just checking to see if we have any hands raising.
Well, I'll just start off by saying I feel like you were speaking to me with that superhuman thing. So Thanksgiving language, I will often miss out on lunch conversations because I'm trying to get ahead. And then this whole cycle starts where then I feel bad that I missed an opportunity for connection. And then I'll try to have a hallway conversation. And then I leave that and feel like, oh my gosh, and now I feel terrible because I just interrupted someone's work time. And then I start getting down on myself. And yeah, I didn't ever before put that into imposter phenomenon. So thanks for sharing that language. It's good to sort of recognize when those tendencies come up in ourselves. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for that, Susan, because it can spiral on us. So, all right. Well, just so y'all know, because you were a quiet group and I want to honor and respect that, but at the same time, I'm going to be flipping up my questions here in the future to encourage interaction. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about ways that you can tame imposter syndrome here. And one of those ways to quiet gremlins, and what I mean by gremlins, it's that inner roommate, it's that voice that takes up space, either in the moment or when we're chastising ourselves at a later moment, or maybe both. And that's what I mean when I utilize the term gremlin. So a few ways that you can tame the gremlin is by creating a personal inventory. And this goes back to your accomplishments as well. I personally have 2 ways in which I create or I keep a personal inventory. One is electronic, one is physical paper. And what I mean by that is when I receive a performance evaluation, whether it be paper or electronic, I save that in a file. Because when you're in this career search, we forget about all the badassery that we've done because it's just second nature to us. So putting them in a file. Also, if I receive a acknowledgement, a card from someone, then I am taking that piece of information and also placing it in a file, which you'll see about the smile file as well. But personal inventory is also when I am receiving electronic confirmations, affirmations. That's why I have 2. It also means that when I'm in a space, do I have access to electronics, or am I close to my physical file over here when I can pull those things out? And your personal inventory, I also called a lived experience document. And so this is who you are across the total spectrum of your life, meaning, yes, in your place of work, but it's also places where you have been in the classroom, in your volunteer work, in your familial world, in your friendship worlds. What are your accomplishments, your rock star things that you do? Because what it comes down to, you have rock star in you that just seems normal and common to you, but your gifts are different than mine. I always try to surround myself with people whose gifts and talents are often different from mine. That way, when I either have a true weakness or something I just don't care to pour myself into, I have a buddy that I can reach out to that can help me with those things. So things we take for granted that we're great at, other people do not. So write those down. So when it comes to a time when you are in this career search, you're like, oh, snap, I totally forgot. I mean, I personally served on as the for a very large conference in the area, over 1,000 individuals, as both the presenter and volunteer coordinator. I did that for 7, maybe 10 years. And to be honest, until recently, when somebody said, oh my gosh, we miss having you on this. I haven't done it in 10 years. I had not taken that into an account, but those are experiences that I can utilize during interview dialogue, as well as pieces for a cover letter moving forward. So personal inventory. I delved a little bit into a smile file, collecting those pieces from those various spaces of life that are acknowledging what an amazing and contributing member of society that you are. Tuck those away, again, in paper, electronic, and or both, but select a way. That way, when you need a pick-me-up and the voices, the gremlins are just loud and you can't quiet them down, personally, right in front of me, I have 2 that are actually in cards that were sent by very dear humans to me that are reminders of very significant things. One is a personal contribution and improvement that I helped with that individual's world. The second one is based on the workspace and how my contributions in the workspace made that person's life and work easier based on our partnership. So when my gremlins are loud and fierce, I'm able to look up quickly and see that isn't necessarily true. Another way that I encourage for taming imposter phenomena is a personal advisory board. And a personal advisory board can look different in different ways. So I have a couple of these, one of which is called Wonder Women. It's a group of 3 individuals. We all happen to be women. Fun disclosure, Wonder Woman was one of my heroes along with the Incredible Hulk as a child. And so hence the reason that group is named the Wonder Woman. And we are committed to getting together every 6 weeks. And we show up committedly in our most vulnerable ways. Meaning, if I am having a struggle and I really need advice on something, we have intentionally created this safe space where what is talked about there stays there and comes with really great advice. Another group that I belong to created, excuse me, it's actually a virtual group, and it's a group of 6 of us and all very busy humans. So we try to get a regular cadence for us because we're around the country to get together, but between work and personal and time zone differences. So now it's just an electronic chain where when we're suffering something, or we want to bounce something off, or we just need a lift up, we can reach out to this advisory board and get our bucket filled up so that then we can overflow. And sometimes it's not just about people pouring in, but sharing their circle of influence and pointing us to resources or making connections. So I am a huge believer of personal advisory boards and keeping just small tribes of people who you can show up and be your full self. And a little secret, because everybody deals with imposter phenomena, everyone is looking to have a personal advisory board for themselves as well. Oops. So there's a few ways. Well, we had this happen last time. I thought I fixed it, but there's a timer on here because we're actually moving into practice. But break time is not showing up on screen. So we're going to move into some practice time here. And this is, to me, the most important way that you can tame imposter phenomena. Name it to tame it. Name your saboteur. And what I mean by that is my gremlin is named Mrs. Moore. She is named after my 2nd grade teacher, whose name was Mrs. Moore. But when I see her in my mind's eye, she actually looks like my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Good. And imposter phenomena occurs across all life spectrums. And I would dare say that 2nd grade was the first time that I started feeling imposter gremlins because of my teacher, Mrs. Moore. She was very different from my kindergarten and 1st grade teachers. And she was one of those individuals who was more about pointing out what you did wrong and what you needed to do better. And as a natural born perfectionist, automatically, because I had 1 or 2 things or 6 things to improve on, it negated all of the things that I was doing right. So name it to tame it. What I mean by that is allowing gremlins aren't going away. My Mrs. Moore, she does not go away, but she's also now on a time limit. And on a time limit, sometimes where I set it on my screen, you get 90 seconds, chick. You get to run your mouth, you get to talk into my ear, but then I'm shutting you down because you got your allotted time limit. So what I would like you to do, we're just going to take 90 seconds here real quick. And so that you can name your saboteur. What is the name of your gremlin? And I also want to put some ground rules here because mine is named Mrs. Moore. People think they need to have a traditional name for your gremlin. It doesn't have to be that at all. I have one client, her gremlin is named Snake. Another one is named Frito, like as in Frito, Fritos, because she can't stand the smell of them. So the name of your gremlin can be whatever you would like it to be. So we're going to take, because we allow Mrs. Moore, in my case, 90 seconds, we're going to take 90 seconds so that you can name your gremlin. And then would love, if you're open to it, that you drop in the chat what you decided to name your gremlin, but don't feel called to do so if it will be uncomfortable for you. All right, Gladys. Ooh, I'm glad that therapist is in on this work as well. Gladys. I'm glad that it's been help, and I hope the time limit will be helpful. Gertie. Tomato, because I hate tomatoes. I love it. So as we move along, feel free to drop that in if you came across a name that floated to the top to give your colleagues, your peers on this workshop encouragement as well. So please keep them coming. Okay, so also here are some additional tools to check yourself around taming those gremlins, that inner roommate. And I will continue sharing resources, but here is 3 questions to check yourself. Is what your, and I'm going to use Gladys, is Gladys telling you, is it true? Is it actually based in fact? Or is it Gladys and her troop of fraud police that are behind her? that are telling you myths and lies? What is in your control? Oftentimes, imposter gremlins appear because we look at the totality of a project or some piece of work that we are involved in. Is your portion up to snuff? Are you doing all that you can, or are you accepting responsibility for things that are out of your control? Little fun secret. I normally, the alumni relations team will tell you that I don't have my background blurred typically when I am partnering with them on events, because I want you as guest of ours to see who Amy is and who I am authentically, what my background is. The reason the blurred background is right now is because I have, you know, those big ass Post-it notes. They're like 2 feet by 2.5 feet. I have 8 of them posted around my office right now. And it was because I was feeling so overwhelmed and I needed to get things out of my mind and onto paper so I could add some priorities. The thing about these 8 Post-it notes, when I'm looking at them, only about 25% is in my control. The other 75% that were contributing to me feeling like I wasn't going to be successful are things that are outside my control. The other question is, the third question, what vulnerability or core value is making you feel this way? Oftentimes in the world, I grew up in a little small town. And I want to clarify, my dad is one of the most amazing humans. He's one of my best friends now, but we did not get along growing up. And he also comes from a family of addiction, that plagued our immediate family. And he got into some trouble. And I felt like that clouded who I was as a 4th grader. And I carried that with me for many, many years. And in fact, probably until about 2 years ago, just based on some of the treatment. And so it made me feel less than or small. And so oftentimes I can trace back my gremlin to not being worthy. And a minute change in the way I'm perceiving someone about how they're perceiving me. So here are 3 questions that you can utilize to check yourself. You will be given, if you have not already been done so, I encourage you to print it out, to have it printed in front of you. I have some clients who carry them in their pockets, some of them who have in the center console of their cars. So when their gremlins, when their matos are showing up, they can pull these out and actually walk through the questions. And I encourage you, it's the exercise we just went through. What is true? What is in my control? What core value or vulnerability is making me feel this way? Those 3 arrows under I am enough is a space for you to write in why these things, what you answered at the top, are not true and why you are enough. I will tell you, even though we're virtually together, that I believe that you are enough and you are worthy of all of this. So this will be coming to you. Again, as you can see, my little countdown timer is not working, although we tested it right before we got on. And normally a gremlin would have said, okay, you're a failure. Now I'm just like, I'm moving on. It is what it is. I know how to count to 60 or 180, depending on how much time I'm giving you. For this particular exercise, we are going to spend 3 minutes on this. And this is the portion where I want you to make a commitment contract to yourself. When I am doing this workshop, what I have been able to identify, lots of things might have been coming to your brain, but there's one thing that incrementally kept rising to the top. So what I would like you to do is write down that one imposter gremlin that kept rising to the top today. Then I want you to ask yourself, what is that vulnerability or value that's making me feel this way? And then thirdly, how can I tame Mrs. Moore the next time she rears her ugly head? So we're going to take 3 minutes to do this because I'm hopeful that you are going to be implementing this as soon as this workshop is done. I will be standing by monitoring chat if you have any questions. 3 minutes from now, we'll get back together. All right, my friends, 3 minutes is up. Hopefully you had time to cultivate your contract to yourself. What I would love to know is, were you, just drop a yes, you don't have to tell us anything about it. But were you able to write a contract to yourself so that you, when you step out of this workshop in 10-15 minutes, that you have something that you were committed so you can tame your own Mrs. Moore or what have you. And we did have a Norma come in based off the word normal. And I love that as well during our 3-minute time period. So if you can just drop in the chat how you felt and if you were able to make a commitment to yourself. And as you're walking through these, if you have additional questions about this stuff, the alumni relations team, in addition to the slide, my contact information is on there. Feel free to reach out and ask for clarifications on things. More than happy to continue the conversations. I feel like this is one of my purposes in life, is to help you overcome imposter phenomena and tame that inner roommate. So a couple more things that I would like to share as we are coming to a close here is 3 books that I found extremely helpful. As you can see, there are some splatters on a couple of these books. But I had heard about the subtle art of not giving an F for many years, but didn't actually read the book until the beginning part of 2022. And what I want to say to you is, for me personally, and I've now shared this book out probably 12 times with individuals as gifts. I utilize it both in my personal world as well as with my coaching clients. For me and them, it has been a mind-altering way to think about what we value in this world and what we're chasing in this world. And what I mean by that is, typically, and in my work, you know, what do you value? Honesty, integrity, commitment, loyalty, tenacity, grit, those types of things. But some of the mind alteration that I went through is, I personally, it says, what you chase is what you actually value, which I knew conceptually. But it puts you through some work steps. And what I realized is, because of some lived experience gremlins and the way I felt I was perceived, as well as my lack of social and cultural capital in the world, is I was chasing after the cool kids. And much of my professional world was being spent by chasing after the cool kids. The ones who get the awards or were deemed, you know, the echelon of industry. And I would purposefully seek out seats at those tables, but they couldn't figure out, like, I'm at the table. Why aren't I enjoying that? Because I don't like these people. We don't have a lot in common, or I find them to be fake, but I was chasing. And so this book equipped me with the ability to analyze, am I chasing after this personal or professional path because I'm going to be viewed as cool, or because it's going to bring me joy and energy? And then I was able to then located the Subtle Art of Not Giving an F journal. And this I have given out even more than the book, because the prompts in the journal, I personally feel, are extremely introspective when we're able to be honest and vulnerable with ourselves. Personal secret for me is I can still be untrusting of the world. So mine is actually in a lockbox, and I have a pact with my sister-in-law that when something happens to me, she comes and gets it. Because some of it is like my personal, most inner thoughts. I also, my life was changed last year through the discovery from a professional colleague and friend who has become a friend, a book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. It's all about, we carry these things and these voices around our gremlins, our roommates, and it equips us with tools of how to release. And a couple of key things, what got me to read the book was when JP shared, I am not the voices, I am the one who hears the voices, that I am in control. My personal being is not the voices. I am the one who hears them. So I am in control. So when I say that I give Mrs. Moore 90 seconds to talk, if I don't have a timer or it's not the right environment, a very simple tool that I took away from that is to either verbally or mentally just say, hello, 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 as a reminder that I am in control. And my inner roommate, my gremlin, is not in control. So if you're a reader or an audio listener, I highly encourage that you take advantage of these resources. I just personally found them life-changing, as well as many of my clients and friends have as well. So wanted to share those resources. Now we're moving into our Q&A time. And in the meantime, while we're doing Q&A, I'm just gonna dump my contact information if you want to do a screenshot, as well as these resources will be sent out to you. Let's see here. See, Kyle's on screen. He's like, Amy, get it wrapped up. We're done at 5:30. So I'm going to stop my sharing, but any questions, I'm here and able to stay on for a little bit longer if necessary.
Amy, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom with us. It looks like from the number of the comments that we're all picking up a bunch of great strategies and new insights on taming imposter syndrome. So very helpful, I think, for everyone. I'm going to throw up here. We have a few more career readiness events coming up. Hopefully you can see my so I threw the dates up there, and then just keep an eye on your email for follow-up materials from Amy and our office with these dates, the slides from the presentation, Amy's contact information, the recording, all of that good stuff will be coming your way. Lost my connection there for a second. Otherwise, thank you everyone for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, everyone. Make your evening amazing.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Hi, Amy. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Danny Lauer. Nice to meet you.
No, nice to meet you, Danny. New to the team, correct?
Yes, just started in February. So I'm working as the coordinator for adult and alumni career resources. Yeah. So had to
I'm
pop on and say hi.
to meet you, Danny. I've been hearing about you, so I was wondering if that was you.
That
So
was
thank
me.
you for assuring